Welcome learners to the Electronic Learning Management System of Central University of Haryana. In the previous lecture, we discussed about concept of communication and communication skills. In the current lecture, we will discuss in detail about the process of communication and motives of communication. Why do we communicate? And how the process of communication initiates and what are the various steps involved in completing a communication. In the previous lecture, we discussed communication is not a one-time activity. It involves a continuous process. Today, we will discuss about various elements involved in the process of communication and how this process could be conducted to have an effective communication. Also, we will learn about different motives of communication. Why do women communicate? There are various reasons. In the current lecture, we will focus upon the key motives that motivates a person to communicate. Let's continue our lecture. Up to now, you must have understood what is communication. Communication can simply be defined as communication is the exchange of ideas and thoughts to create mutual understanding. Although the process of communication involves various elements, communication is not just an instant action, though it appears so, but actually it is a process. It undergoes various systematic steps and the complete process of communication that leads to successful completion of communication, that is, the message is understood by the receiver and effect is received or sought through feedback. Communication is actually a complete process of exchanging the thoughts. In the process of communication, there are some basic elements. As we have discussed, communication is the exchange of ideas and thoughts. So, who do exchange? What is exchanged? To whom is exchanged? All these components forms the elements of communication. These elements, when work together to execute a communication, is called the process of communication. There is a SR theory of communication, that means stimuli response, meaning thereby someone receives some stimuli from within or from outside or from another person or from the surroundings that motivates a person to communicate. So let us understand how this process is then completed. In the process of communication, the very first element or the very first stage is ideation. Means somebody receives some stimuli, some idea comes to someone that he or she wants to communicate to another person. This is the very basic stage of communication, and the person here is referred as sender, who is sending something. Then comes message, meaning thereby the ideation, that thought which came into the sender's mind is developed into a मैसेज, मतलब जो संचारक है, जो कोई बात किसी से शेयर करना चाहता है, संचार करना चाहता है, वो अपने विचार को एक संदेश के रूप में डेवलप करता है. And this message is channelized to the receiver through some medium. and media is the plural form of medium, means various combinations of mediums. And thus, from the channel, the message is received by the target पर्सन दैट इज कॉल्ड रिसीवर, प्राप्तकर्ता, जो संदेश को किसी ना किसी माध्यम के द्वारा प्राप्त करता है. एंड देन देयर इज अ टर्म फीडबैक. There are various models of communication. So, in the initial stages, the scholars defined the communication process is completed only up to the receiver. Then further studies added the component of feedback, means प्रतिपुष्टि. अर्थात जब तक रिसीवर सेंडर को ये फीडबैक नहीं देता, प्रतिपुष्टि नहीं करता कि जो विचार साझा किया गया है वो उसको समझ पाया या नहीं समझ पाया है, तब तक संचार को अपूर्ण माना जाता है. वो फीडबैक किसी भी रूप में हो सकता है, कहकर, बोलकर, उस आइडिया पर उसी अनुसार एक्शन के द्वारा या नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन के द्वारा एटसेट्रा. So feedback is also considered an important element in the process of communication. Although mostly the main components are considered sender, message, channel and receiver. But yes, feedback is important in communication. Only then you can ensure whether the communication was effective or ineffective. Let us understand the process of communication in more detailed form. We have discussed sender and ideation. Then there is a term encoding. What does this mean? Whatever the sender perceives in his or her mind is not actually the message. The sender develops that idea to be communicated. This process of developing that idea into the proper form of a message is called encoding, meaning जो विचार आया है किसी के दिमाग में उसको शब्द देना, फॉर्मेट देना, कंटेंट टाइप में उसको डेवलप करना ही कहलाता है encoding. Encoding के बाद बनता है मैसेज, एंड दिस मैसेज is channelized through the appropriate medium. मतलब अगर हम चाहते हैं इफेक्टिव संचार हो, सपोज कि somebody is sitting very far from you and you are speaking from here, can the other person listen you? So you will need some technology, some mediated technology to communicate at this far length. Or suppose you are talking to a person who is illiterate, बट आप उसको लेटर पकड़ा रहे हो लिखकर, तो क्या वो समझ पाएगा? उसको नहीं समझ पाएगा. सो दिस appropriate choice of channel is very crucial. After the channel, the message is received by the receiver, and mostly whatever we listen, we receive, we decode that. That is called decoding. मतलब हमें जो कुछ भी सूचनाएं प्राप्त होती हैं तो हम उसको decode करते हैं, अपने शब्दों में उसको एनालाइज करते हैं, विश्लेषण करते हैं और अपने हिसाब से उसमें से कुछ सूचनाओं को या पूर्ण रूप से सूचना को ग्रहण करते हैं. और संचार का लक्ष्य होता है कि सामने वाला आपकी बात को पूरे तरीके से समझ सके, उसी को ही हम इफेक्टिव कम्युनिकेशन कहते हैं. दैट इज अचीव्ड थ्रू डेवलपिंग कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स. And the last we have already discussed, feedback, means after decoding the message, whatever the receiver has received is submitted to the sender in the form of feedback. If we see communication in this way, this seems circular, meaning thereby संचार चलता रहता है. सेंडर से रिसीवर को आया, रिसीवर अगेन सेंडर को बात कर रहा है, तो क्या हो गया? रिसीवर विल बिकम सेंडर एंड सेंडर विल बिकम रिसीवर. सो ये रोल्स इंटरचेंज होते रहते हैं. Sometimes a person is sender, sometimes he is receiver, but actually हम दोनों काम करते हैं. We are simultaneously receiving and simultaneously sending to someone or the same from whom we received in the form of feedback. In this whole process, why do we need communication skills? हमें संचार कौशल की जरूरत कहाँ और क्यों पड़ती है? इन पूरी प्रोसेस में कभी भी आपकी संचार प्रभावित हो सकती है। कैसे? In the form of noise that we also called barriers to communication, संचार बाधाएं। अर्थात मान लो जब सेंडर मैसेज डेवलप कर रहा है किसी आइडिया को, जब वो उस पर सोच रहा है, तो उस समय हो सकता है कि सेंडर के माइंड में कुछ और चल रहा हो, वो उस बात को पूरी तरीके से एनकोड न कर पाए। मैसेज जो हमने तैयार किया हो सकता है उसमें लैंग्वेज में कोई बैरियर रह जाए। चैनल जो हमने चुना उसमें उसकी एप्रोप्रिएटनेस हो सकती है कि सही हो नहीं हो। रिसीवर एंड पे बहुत कुछ हो सकता है, जैसे आप फोन करके किसी को कोई मैसेज दे रहे थे, इन बिटवीन नेटवर्क कट गया। आप कोई मेल भेज रहे थे, आज की बजाय वो कल पहुंची। या फिर हो सकता है कि आपने जिस लेवल का मैसेज बनाया उस लेवल का रिसीवर नहीं समझ पाया। सो दीज आर वेरियस काइंड्स ऑफ बैरियर्स विच मे अकर इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन। इन्हीं बैरियर से बचने के लिए हम बहुत सारे प्रिकॉशंस अपनाते हैं एंड वी ट्राई टू मेक आवर कम्युनिकेशन बेस्ट, ताकि इफेक्टिव संचार हो सके। We will discuss barriers to communication in our next lecture. In the current lecture, we will discuss motives of communication. So now let us discuss what are motives of communication. Communication is very essential in human life. Humans start communicating from the very first breath and till the last breath. मानव जन्म से लेकर अंत तक संचार करता रहता है, and even if somebody believes in superstition, then even after the death or before the birth. Though the sciences are different on that part, let us discuss about motives of communication. संचार के क्या मुख्य प्रेरणा तत्व है? Why do we communicate? हम संचार क्यों करते हैं? There are various motives, but in the current lecture we will discuss only the major motives that motivates us to communicate. The very first is to inform. दूसरों को सूचित करने के लिए, means sometimes you have some information which you want to inform to others. To share, साझा करने के लिए. Actually, the word communication developed from the Latin word communis, that means to share, मतलब साझा करना. This is the very basic and very prominent motive of communication. हम मानव इस तरीके से हैं कि we can't live without society, we can't survive without communication. We need to communicate. हमारे मन में जो भी होता है, we wish to share it with our loved ones, with our siblings, with our surroundings, etc. And the next motives of communication is to know. जिज्ञासु प्रवृत्ति, मानव शुरू से ही जिज्ञासु प्रवृत्ति का है. But this curiosity to know some things humans communicate, to question, to know. And dynamic context. Communication is a dynamic activity. It never stops. It carries on. It is never like कि something you have shared is the last time you shared. Somebody else will share it in some other way, or somebody else will communicate about that in some other context. So communication goes on as like human life and situations. Similarly, there are various motives of communication in dynamic form, in dynamic situations and dynamic contexts. Like for a business, one wants to communicate its business activities. For a doctor, he wants to tell about health things. For a teacher, she wants to share knowledge. For a student, wants to learn Some director wants to direct its subordinates, and etc. So, in different contexts, there are different motives of communication, but primarily the major motives of communication are to inform, to share, to know, and dynamic context. Learners, this is the process of communication and key factors that motivates us to communicate. I hope you understand the process and motives of communication. Thank you.